I wanted to ask you about, obviously you were a holdout with Bart Stupak and really pushed hard to get it, the original Stupak amendment and the bill, then also were holdout to the very end. Given the fact that the Hyde Amendment was already law and prevented federal funding, why did you feel the need to side with Bart Stupak and push so hard and hold out for so long, given the fact that it was already law on the books?
Well, it's not already law on the books. The Hyde Amendment is reaffirmed every year. And part of the problem with abortion law is that if it's not explicitly stated in the legislation, it's assumed that it's included. And so when we talk about the Hyde Amendment is in HHS language, you're right, especially as it applies to community health centers. But this is a separate authorization and appropriation above and beyond what goes to HHS for community health centers. We wanted to make sure that the underlying Hyde Amendment applied to that funding. That's what the executive order says, that underlying Hyde Amendment still applies to the community health centers, even though it's, and I don't know if the right word's extraordinary, but an increase in the authorization and appropriation.
But the Hyde,
so it was a clarification.
The Stupak Amendment actually went further than the Hyde Amendment, though.
Yeah, it could be argued that it went further because we don't really have a mechanism. This isn't Hyde language is specific to appropriations bills, and the exchange that we're establishing is different than your typical annual appropriation bill. And so you're right. The Stupak language was different than Hyde specific because it's a different entity that you're trying to address. And that's what the challenge was in terms of getting the language right, because we don't have a model like this in the United States in terms of the insurance exchange as the Hyde Amendment is applied to it. And so that's why creating this was a challenge for us, because it wasn't as simple as just applying Hyde, because Hyde is applied to appropriations bills. The executive order is actually really interesting because it's an executive order in the true sense of an executive order. It's not an executive order that creates new law. It's an executive order that explains to the administration how this law is going to be applied. And it's really oh no, it's far more powerful than the signing statement. The executive order has the power of law. And the executive order, if you look at previous executive orders like the stem cell ban that Bush signed, the Emancipation Proclamation, the desegregation of the military, those were all significant changes to standing policy. This isn't a significant change to standing policy. This is an extension of the standing policy. And actually, it provides guidance for the administration as to how the new health care law will be applied. It's a truer sense of what an executive order is intended to be, and that is an order to the administration as to how the law is to be applied. So, anyway, I got to run over.